Good evening, everyone. We start with breaking news. A jury has found Lori Vallow Daybell guilty of conspiring to kill her husband, Charles Vallow, in Chandler back in 2019.
12 News journalist Erica Stapleton was in the courtroom the moment the verdict was read. How emotional was it in there, or was it just a foregone conclusion that she was going to be found guilty?
Well, Mark Caribe, you know, I feel like we were waiting all day. We knew that the verdict could be coming likely this afternoon, and it was a lot of waiting. And the moment the jury came in and the verdict was read, all happened so quickly. And it was interesting because I feel like people in the gallery, including some of the victims' family members, it was kind of like the jury came in, there was this collective holding of breath. And then at one point, as soon as it was read, you could hear this sigh of relief. As for Lori Vallow Daybell, the defendant in this case, she just stood there. As far as I could tell, she didn't really have an emotion. Maybe she knew the writing was on the wall, and that was the case this whole time. As I said, she's representing herself, so it was certainly a spectacle this whole time to see her not only, you know, speak to the jury directly, but also cross-examine witnesses. So this was certainly a long time coming in this case, especially because she was already convicted in Idaho of killing her children, Tylee and JJ, who used to live here in the valley, and her role in the death of her current husband, Chad Daybell's first wife, Tammy. So this whole saga is really a story about Lori and her, Lori and her brother trying to take out the people in their way so she could be with Chad Daybell. And I think we have justice in this case now. A lot of the family members of Charles Vallow, Lori's former husband, were in the courtroom as this verdict was read. And of course, this is an emotional moment for them. I know his sister, Kay Woodcock, said it's like they've been walking through the pits of hell for several years at this point. And I would imagine, and what they told us, is that this is a bit of relief and closing of a chapter. We also heard from his brother, Jerry, and, I think this was just a weight off their shoulders, but of course, it's not over just yet. Take a listen.
I had a little concern, but when it came back so quick, I pretty much knew that it was done. Nate, so.
What did you think of her demeanor during trial?
I thought she was, kind of a smarty pants, not real, I don't know what word I'm looking for. I know which one I would use.
Trying to be nice.
Right.
I really couldn't hear her because, that baby talk she does, that baby voice. Yep. She needs to lose that, man. But I hope she grows up in prison and learns how to talk like a woman, and not a baby.
That was Kay Woodcock and Jerry Vallow, Charles Vallow siblings. And I asked Kay after too, I said, what would you say to Lori if you could say something right now? And she said, we got you. That's what she would say. And she continued to go on to say, she'll be rotting in prison after this. So when I said this isn't over yet, I mean that Lori Vallow Daybell is actually facing another murder conspiracy case here in Arizona. She's accused of conspiring with her brother, again, to try and kill her niece's ex-husband. And again, I know that's a lot of people there, but it just shows the toll of people who have been impacted by this case. And her brother, I know we've been mentioning him a lot, Alex Cox, he was not charged in this case because he died back in 2019 as well. So he was considered the co-conspirator in not just this case, but the cases up in Idaho. And I do want to show you guys something because these were being handed out afterwards. They're bracelets that say justice for Tylee, JJ, Charles, and Tammy. I'll try to hold this up here so you can see. And I do want to emphasize the toll that this case and the cases in Idaho that came before this had on not just the victims who were killed, but the surviving victims. Kay and her husband, Larry, who was not here today, they were the ones who really raised the alarm when the kids went missing back in 2019. That really started to unravel the series of horrible events that occurred not just here in Arizona, but up in Idaho. And it's really telling. Kay Woodcock, again, you just heard from her. She said that the prosecutor in the Idaho case texted her today, congratulations. We know there's been a ton of media paying attention to this case. People have traveled as far as Australia to be here and sit in on the hearings. It was certainly a lot to see. And, I think a lot of people were just waiting for that moment here in the courtroom. And I know early on, Mark, you said, was this just to be expected? And I think it really was. The prosecution laid out a really strong case here with a ton of evidence. Lori Vallow Daybell didn't challenge her in any way except through cross-examination. She didn't present her case. She didn't have to, but I think the jury really picked up on that. So that's where we are today. Of course, proceedings will continue as she goes on to face that second murder conspiracy charge here in Arizona. And we understand that the sentencing in this case today will actually be coming after that second trial takes place. So that's the latest right here. And of course, I know you'll be hearing momentarily, guys, from some jurors, because that was a big question in all of this. Did they know her backstory? You know, this is really fascinating to see them reach this verdict without knowing some of the details that we know.
A lot of bodies in that trail. All right, Erica, thanks.